Okay, it helps me also to have idea of what I wanted to tell you about my work with children. Um, so my experience with children and logosynthesis is incredible, really wonderful, because it's very simple, powerful, easy, and playful. Children love do logosynthesis because it works very fast, and it's like a play, and they really love it. They feel good. I used to use logosynthesis on a daily basis. So also with my children, I work a lot with logosynthesis on the fear of the monster, for example. In the room, we had a lot of monster here with and with my children, we worked a lot with logosynthesis. Or if they are afraid by airplane, by to swim in the sea. Uh, Also, when they do nightmares, or if they're very nervous because they are afraid to have a nightmare the evening, you can apply logosynthesis. I use also to use logosynthesis when I read books. Some books they're afraid of some books, or they're not very calm after seeing a movie. And so I use logosynthesis also in this case if there are some picture that hurt them, or some things that they are not very quiet with. Also to work on the examination test, homework, everything about school is very important, and it's very easy to work with logosynthesis. Also the relationships between the students with the school. At school, you can work with logosynthesis. So the sentences work by themselves. As you see, as you know, logosynthesis works with adults, and it's the same for children. You don't have to change the sentence. It's the same sentence works. The words works. So you can also work on representations, beliefs, and fantasies. At the beginning, I was a little bit afraid to work on beliefs because I thought maybe it's a too difficult word for children, but it works because a part of them know that's a good sentence, and it works. That's not a problem. You don't have to change some things when you work with children. But I like to add this magic touch to say, I don't say, let's do logosynthesis, but I say, let's do the magic sentences. They really like it. And my experience with logosynthesis is to add a lot of funny little things, little fantasies, little creativity. So I like making them drawing, to do the to draw how they feel, what is stressing them. So I ask them, please start to draw how do you feel, or what's happening at school, or what is your fear. So drawing, put colors and form and things. They love it, and it works. I also work with cards. I don't know if you in every country you have cards. Then maybe uh, um, I can show you some cards like this one. This one are for adults, but I don't know if you see me. Like some cards like that with some things represented. This is for adults, but I have also cards for children. Then I can show you after. And so I can show the card, and I tell him how what is your level of stress with these cards, or find in all these cards some things that is stressing you, or something that represents your problems, or something that represents the other people, or the exam, or so the card represents the problem and what is stressing you. You can also work with photos and image that you take in the magazine. You can take a magazine or find it on internet. You find some pictures, you cut it, and you give it to the children and say which one is most stressful. Uh, as I told you, who was in the group of Logosynthesis when I spoke about the stress of people in France with coronavirus, and I told you I chose to find on internet some drawers which were funny, and to tell them, okay, this which one of these drawing is most stressful for you. That that were it was funny draws, but not not it was on the situation, it was actuality, so it was also a little bit stressful because it was showing things that were not only funny but funny and criticize some point of the situation. So you can do the same with the children, work on funny things or find some pictures, or also, well, then I will tell you. I also work with Playmobiles or toys, and tell them when I do the maps. I don't know if you know, if everybody know how maps work, but if you do a map, you can put your toys and Playmobiles and represent like that. So this is 3 examples of what you can do with children. So on your, I don't see my mouse. Okay, that's not a problem. So on your left, I did a map with the children of 6 years old, and you have the Playmobil, which represents himself, and this card represents his fear of to be in a boat. And so I present him a lot of cards which were not of some things that he can know, but it was all things, colors and form and things like that. And he told me that this one was stressing him. And then if you want, I can explain you how because he told me there I see, in this one I don't remember, but he says there I see the blue is the sea, the orange is me, um, the yellow, maybe it's an island because the boat, we had an accident with the boat, and so it represents my stress. So he sees some things. Also, if for us it's not, but for him, he can see something there. Then on your right, I did a map with children of 10 years old. And also I use the cards, but the cards that represents children. And so, and each children will represent some people in his map. And then under this picture, you have a drawing that children did. He was very afraid to do a show uh, at the end of the year of I don't remember what dance or something like that. he had to do the show, and he was very stressed. I think he was 9 years old. And so I asked him to do the drawing, and we did the sentences on the drawing.
That's a pretty intense drawing.
Yes. And at the beginning, he did on all the drawing, and then on only on the shoes. You see the shoes?
Yeah.
Because after the first moment of the sentences, he says, okay, my stress went down, but I still have 5, or I don't know, I don't remember, of stress. And so I asked him, what part of your drawing is stressing you 5? And he told me the shoes. And sometime I can, so for recently, I asked 2 children to find a mandala. I present him not this mandala. This was for tonight and for the PowerPoint. But I show him mandalas, and I ask him which ones represent something that is stressing you. And he showed me one mandala, and he told me this one, because it is, this one represents when my father is angry with my grandmother. And he started to speak about his father, who was angry with the grandmother, and then we did the sentences on the mandala.
Wow.
We apply.
Wow.
So I don't know if you have an idea of what can remind you this mandala. So, and then you apply logosynthesis.
So you use the drawings and the representations to help identify what the trigger is?
Yes.
And they don't even have to really know what it is because it's a representation.
Yes. Yes. You tell me about the cards, the pictures, or the drawing?
I guess like for either, right? Like whether
Yes.
it's a drawing or whether it's
yes.
a set of cards.
Yes. Yes. And when I did this map with the children, there were 3. I never worked with, because in my democratic school we weren't a lot. So I never worked as you maybe work with entire classes or a lot of children. But I work with, I did this map with 3 children. They were all in one part of the room, and they all chose some cards for their problem, and they all work individually, but in the same time, the 3 together. Because they all had, I asked them which cards is most stressful, or which cards or which image is most stressful, and every child was working with logosynthesis sentences on his card.
Wow. So when you did the label, it was, I retrieve all my energy that's bound in the image of this card. Okay.
Yes, in this representation.
Yep.
I guess one of the things that it's important to bring up right now, because I understand that both Mary Christine and Crystal have not started the training yet, so we might be talking a bit too technical for them right now. So one of the things that you will notice in logosynthesis is that, unlike other modalities, like for example CBT, which you mentioned before, we will not work directly with emotion. So, for example, another modalities, a person experiences fear, and we offer them resources or help them find ways to deal with the fear. So, in logosynthesis, we do not do that. We believe that the fear that a person is experiences is a reaction to something else, to a root cause. We call it trigger. So, what Miriam is right now sharing is that in logosynthesis, there are different ways to explore what is the emotion and what is behind it, what is causing it. So once you find it, you can apply the sentences and get rid of it, right? And I think that the work of Miriam is fantastic because you're really creative, and I love that. And children resonate a lot with the work of images and drawings, and they're able to express themselves, what they're feeling, put it on paper, and then just work with that piece of paper, and it works seamlessly. So I guess that's the brilliance of this way of working.
And the images and the pictures are activating the most important the activating your body, and activates your emotions and your thought, your thinking. So, and in logosynthesis, we try, when you do the basic protocols, we try to find a representation which suit to these three aspects of what is behind the emotion. No? And the cards, and when you are making a drawing, or when you have a picture, an image, a movie, some things, it activates you. It activates your thinking, and it activates your emotions and something in your body. I was.
So you're
Yeah.
almost
For
approaching it
example,
more from a creative approach rather than a cognitive approach when you're drawing.
Yeah. And I think I like to do it also with adults. But with the children, it's great to do like that, because with you can do logosynthesis in a very creative way. I think I was telling you, Alan, that you could also take some things. Everything can represent everything. You can make a construction with Lego, build a construction, and this is something that represents emotions, a problem, and it represents emotions, thinking, and some things in your body. And so you can work very in a playful way.
I think another of the benefits of this kind of work that you're suggesting, Miriam, is that we do not depend so much on words to do the work. I mean, let me talk about it. I once met this client. I mean, he's an adult, but he was talking how he was feeling alone and sad, and I started asking him, well, so you're feeling alone and sad. Where are you feeling sad in your body, in the chest? And when I started asking, so what's making you sad and alone? He was not able to talk about it. He just was at loss of words, which I understand may happen with children. Sometimes children don't have a lot of words to describe what's going on. And in that very moment, I actually remember what you told me, Miriam, and I asked him to make a drawing. And he just stopped. He just makes a drawing, then he comes up with a drawing of a plant that has nothing around it. And then he said, I feel like this plant that has no one around. And he was able to start conveying what was happening to him. And then he just worked with the image, and then he just took care of the problem. So I think that's also a benefit for working with children. What you're suggesting, Miriam, is that sometimes children will not have a lot of words to talk about what's happening, but they can draw it, and it just totally conveys what is going on within them.
Okay, this was the work I did because the fear of the boat and to be in the sea. So we work on this on this cards. He says that 3 cards are very activating him, that he's afraid of these 3 cards. The first is, he tells me that it's an eye and a mouth. So maybe this one. Maybe this is, yes, this is the eyes and this is the mouth. And the mouth is the mouth of a monster. And this monster is attacking his boat. And he says that his stress is 9. After saying the logosynthesis sentence, he's a 5. So then I ask him, now what is stressing you? And he says, this card is not stressing me, but I think it's this one. And he says that in this card, he sees an island and in grotte, some things to protect him in the island. And he says that he's in these protections, and he's on the island, but he sees the boat which is going under the sea. So he's in the island and he sees the boat who is going under the sea, and his stress is at 6. And then we do the logosynthesis sentences. Or maybe it's this one with the island. Yes, maybe it's this one with the island. And then in the last one, he says, I see the blue of the sea, and I am in the boat and I see all this water around me. And the stress is at 8. And after the sentences, he's at 5.
Amazing. So did you buy the cards or did the kids create them or?
This one, I love cards. So I buy the card. I have the cards. I have a lot of different cards. But something, it happens to me to also take from internet. And yeah, and they can create, it's a good idea. It's a very good idea to create the cards, I think.
I love the card idea, and I love like with the colors and how abstract it is, because they can really just pull whatever they need, or even the mandalas, like this is really helpful because I've been trying it. I'm just starting with it and trying it with kids just with their own drawings, but I love how you can have like different things. I had a question about when you did it with the 3 children, did you have them all say the sentences at the same time together?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I told them at the beginning, I told them, okay, think to your problem and choose the cards. And so everybody chose the cards which were representing their problem. And maybe I helped them, obviously, a little bit at the beginning to focus on their problem and who they can represent. And then I asked them to take their personal space and to put their image on the floor. And also a paper or card, I don't remember, for themselves. And then I tell them, okay, you are in yourself and you see your personal space and you have this image, and which one is stressing for more for you? And so they said this one, and everybody choose their photo. And then I say, okay, so everybody works on his photo, her photo, and repeat to me.
Once told me about this idea of emotional journal with drawings. I loved it. Would you like to talk a bit about that?
Yes, for with children or with parents?
Well, I think for education it applies to both.
Okay, so I have a emotional. I have more than one. This is the more little, but I have also this one. I have a lot of always with me. So when you have, so I always have this with white papers, and when I have an emotion or something that is not going wrong in my life, I immediately can drawing some things, and then I work with logosynthesis. And it's very useful also it's useful for parents, and it's also useful with children, because they can when I work with clients, I think that one of the first questions I do is, do you like to draw and do you like to put your emotions? Would you like to do it? Okay. And I always write it on my schedule, because I know then that after I can do it or not. And some women don't want, and it's difficult for them to do it. And for other, but they have to understand that it's not, they don't have to do a wonderful things, but they only have to put their emotions and what they feel and what they feel in their body, in their thought, because I also write some words, and I don't remember that. It was in April. And and then you do the sentences on what is stressing you more in this drawing. And you can do it also with children, obviously.
So is the idea that like the child takes the journal home and sketches these things and then brings it back, and you kind of go through and use the logosynthesis on like maybe at one of the drawings that they've taken home? Or is it something you do in the office with them?
No, I always have some things, no, with my clients. No, yes. With the clients, they do it during the session. But okay. Yes, during the sessions.
I'm thinking maybe you could, because I have some kids that I'm wondering if you could have them take it home and then draw it and bring it in and say, oh, what happened on this? This was a really hard day, because we only see them sometimes for a short period of time. I think that might be, in their situation, might be, they could bring it in and say, we'll go through, and which was the hardest for you? Oh, and this was a really tough day. And okay, let's do some logosynthesis on that. Have to label it, right? That's the neat thing about the drawings and the representation. Like, we don't even need to know, because the subconscious, the brain knows what it is. They don't need to label it. That's what's amazing about it. And another question I was thinking, that like the processing time when you had the group of 3 children, is I've been trying it and noticing sometimes the kids will, okay, I'm done, and I don't know if it's long enough to process for some of them. Like, I'm wondering, how do you work with that?
I agree with you that it's very difficult with children to understand how many times they process, because they're not like us. We are all very quiet and calm and like that. Children, when they're processing, they're like that and like that. And sometimes I have sessions on Zoom, and I see them that they are like that, like that. And I say, oh my God, what are they doing?
Exactly.
But I trust in myself. I try to feel it, and then it works. I see that it works. Also, when I do it with my children, also that's the same problem. I'm always very stressed because I don't know if there is if something is happening or not, but something is happening. So trust yourself. But it's I know that's the point. They are not like that. Absolutely never. I never see a child like that.
Yeah, that was excellent, Myriam. Thank you so much. It really helps, because I've been trying to figure out ways, because I use like play as a child's language, right? So they don't have the words. They use play, and I use play in a lot of other things. So I was trying to think of how to get to the trigger with the play. So the Lego or the blocks or the pictures or the abstract images are really, because they can interpret it in whatever way it is for them.